over 100 years of widespread oppression, brutal war. And there is a youth movement that's taking place that is not to be ignored. That youth movement right now has beautiful potential, beautiful ideals, beautiful goals. It, I think, will become very destructive if it's not channeled. And so a huge part of our strategy is finding the young local visionaries who are part of that and giving them the resources they need to thrive and channel this in a positive direction. That youth movement, if it was given the resources and the training and the mechanisms, I think could transform their own communities, their own culture, their own country. These are kids who are connected to the rest of the world for the first time in history. The real challenge is this. The real challenge is to come to a young visionary and say, what do you want to see happen, right? And then to teach them the skills to build those processes, structures, and systems to actually materialize their visions and their dreams so that we can then fund it in good conscience and hold them accountable with high standards of transparency without it being run by us, right? This is the real challenge that we face day in and day out. But in the end, great cultures have great visionaries. This is not going to be solved by an outsider. These are young people who have, in a lot of ways, a huge amount of hope, a huge amount of ideals, and a huge amount of rebellious energy that is inherent to youth, and that energy needs to be channeled. It needs to be channeled constructively and in a way that provides a future for them and for their families. Well, I think we're at the very, very, very beginning of learning how to do that. I'm in just the very beginning, but I'm going to do everything we can to make sure it happens. I think that these are children. I think that these are people who have been forced to commit crimes through economic circumstances, social circumstances, or even physical circumstances, right? And that we have a moral obligation to do whatever is necessary in order to channel them in more constructive directions. But more than anything, what we found at least is that when you pull them out of the context of those difficulties, they want to channel their energies in more constructive directions. And so what we need to do is find the local leaders who are really engaged in that process and back them with everything we can. Support their own community building process. The leadership from the ground is going to have a better sense of the intricacies than any of us could ever have. You could study this stuff for 50 years and never understand why this vowel means this and why, right? Back local leaders. Back the ones who have sacrificed for their people, who have community buy-in, right, from 60-year-olds and 60-year-olds, and who have vast visions of what their community could be. Don't laugh at those visions, back those visions. Yeah.